In the heart of the rolling hills of South Africa, nestled among wildflowers and serenaded by bird song, there lay a small Zulu village called eMakhosini. The air here was rich with the scent of the earth, and the people thrived on tradition, love, and an unspoken bond with the land. But eMakhosini held a secret, carefully guarded by the elders and whispered among the women as they gathered to weave grass baskets and grind maize. This secret intertwined sense with sensibility, duty with desire, and ultimately destiny with drama. Nomvula and Thandi were sisters, as different as night and day, yet bound by a love that only sisters could understand. Nomvula, the elder, was known for her practicality. With her keen eyes, she ensured that the fields were sown with the right seeds at the right time, that the cattle were headed carefully, and that the homestead was always in order. Her wisdom was sought by many, and her advice, often given with a sharp wit and unwavering resolve, was rarely questioned. Nomvula had been raised to understand the weight of responsibility, a burden that had only deepened after the passing of their parents. Thandi, on the other hand, was the dreamer. Her spirit was like the gentle Zulu winds, free and unburdened, dancing through the village with a lightness that brought joy to all. She spent her days by the river, singing to the waters, her mind filled with stories of the Creator and the mythical beings her mother had once whispered about. Thandi believed deeply in the power of love, in the beauty of emotions, and in the life's unpredictable nature. Her laughter could warm even the coldest of hearts, and her smile was a balm for the weary. Despite their differences, the sisters were inseparable. They had faced the harsh realities of life together, balancing each other in ways that no one else could. Nomvula's practical nature grounded Thandi, while Thandi's joyful spirit lifted Nomvula when the weight of the world became too much. But beneath the surface, Nomvula carried the silent fear that one day she might not be able to protect Thandi from the world's harsh realities. One sunny afternoon, as the village of eMakhosini buzzed with the usual activity of the market day, a stranger appeared. He was tall, with a presence that commanded attention, his features sharp and his attire fine, unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. His name was Langa, and he moved through the market with an air of mystery that immediately drew the attention of the villagers. Nomvula was the first to notice him, her sharp eyes following his every move as he spoke to the vendors in a voice smooth like honey. There was something about him that unsettled her, a feeling deep in her gut that she couldn't shake. She watched as Thandi, ever the social butterfly, approached the stranger with her usual enthusiasm. "Greetings, stranger," Thandi said with a warm smile, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "What brings you to eMakhosini?" Langa returned her smile, his gaze locking with her eyes in a way that made her heart skip a bit. "I'm a traveler, seeking stories and adventures," he replied, his Zulu accented with an unfamiliar lilt. "And I've heard that your village is rich with both." Thandi's heart fluttered at his words, her imagination already running wild with the possibilities. "You've come to the right place," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "Our village is full of tales, and I would be happy to share them with you." Nomvula, who had been watching from a distance, felt a pang of unease. There was something about Langa that didn't sit right with her. Her instincts, sharpened by years of responsibility, told her to be cautious. She noticed how Langa's eyes, though warm, seemed to hide something dark and unsettling. But she said nothing, not wanting to spoil Thandi's excitement. As the days passed, Langa became a regular presence in eMakhosini. He was charming, intelligent, and seemed to know exactly how to win the hearts of those around him. The elders, who usually held their wisdom close, found themselves entranced by his stories of far-off lands, and Langa would sit with them, listening intently to their tales of the ancestors and sharing his own. Thandi, of course, was completely smitten. She spent every possible moment with Langa, showing him the beauty of their village, the golden fields, the rolling hills, and the clear waters of Umgeni River. She found herself falling deeply for him, her heart opening up in a way it never had before. Langa seemed to understand her dreams, her love for stories and adventure in a way that no one else did. But while Thandi was lost in the throes of young love, Nomvula remained skeptical. She watched as Langa integrated himself into their lives, his presence seemingly bringing joy to everyone around him. Yet, the uneasy feeling in her gut persisted. Her sleep became restless, filled with vague but troubling dreams of shadowy figures and ominous warnings. Then the strange occurrences began. The cattle, once healthy and strong, started to fall ill. Their once shiny coats became dull and their milk souring. The crops, which should have been thriving under Nomvula's careful watch, began to wither as if cursed. Even the Umgeni River, the lifeblood of the village, turned murky, its once clear waters darkening as if tainted by some unseen force. The villagers whispered of bad omens, of the ancestors' displeasure, but no one could pinpoint the cause. Nomvula, however, had her suspicions. She noticed how the air around Langa seemed to grow colder whenever he was near the river, how his gaze would linger on the darkening waters with a strange, almost possessive intensity. One evening, as she followed him in secret, she saw him standing by the river, whispering words she could not understand. The sight sent a chill down her spine, but still, she hesitated to confront him directly. Thandi's love for Langa grew with each passing day. She believed she had found her soulmate, someone who understood her in ways no one else could. She began to distance herself from Nomvula, unable to understand why her sister couldn't see Langa as she did. To Thandi, Nomvula's skepticism felt like a betrayal, a rejection of the happiness she had finally found. One evening, as Thandi and Langa sat by the river, the moonlight reflecting off the water, Langa turned to her with a serious expression. "There's something I must tell you, Thandi," he said, his voice low. Thandi's heart raced as she prepared herself for whatever he was about to say. "What is it, Langa? I'm not who you think I am," Langa confessed, his tone grave. "I come from a village far from here, a place where the spirits and the living are closely connected. I've been sent here on a mission, one that I cannot complete without your help." Thandi frowned, confusion clouding her mind. "What do you mean, Langa?" Langa took her hands in his grip firm, almost too firm. "Your village sits on a sacred ground, a place where ancestral spirits have long dwelled. But over the years, the connection between your people and the spirits has weakened. The sickness in your cattle, the fallen crops, these are the signs that the balance has been disrupted. I've been sent to restore that balance, but I cannot do it alone. I need you, Thandi." Thandi was overwhelmed by his words. She had always felt a deep connection to the land, to the spirits that her mother used to tell her about when she was a child. But to hear Langa speak of it so seriously made her realize just how real those stories were. "I'll help you," she said, her voice trembling. "But what do we need to do?" Langa's eyes darkened as he spoke. "There's a ritual that must be performed, one that will require great sacrifice. But it is the only way to save your village." Thandi nodded, determination filling her heart. She would do whatever it took to save her people, even if it meant making a difficult choice. But as Langa explained the ritual, Thandi felt a growing sense of dread. His words, once comforting, now felt like chains wrapping around her heart. binding her to a fate she wasn't sure she could face. Meanwhile, Nomvula had been busy with her own investigation. She had spoken to the village elders, pressing them for knowledge about the spirits and the history of their land. The elders, though reluctant, eventually revealed that emakosini was indeed built on sacred ground, and that there were ancient rituals long forgotten that were meant to honor the spirits. What troubled Nomvula most was the realization that Langa's presence was no coincidence. He had come to emakosini with a purpose, and she feared that purpose was far from noble. One night, as she lay awake in her bed, Nomvula had a vivid dream. In the dream, she saw a great storm approaching the village, dark clouds swirling in the sky, threatening to tear everything apart. But just as the storm reached the village, it was halted by a blinding light, a light that seemed to emanate from within the village itself, from the very earth they lived on. In the dream, Nomvula saw herself standing at the center of the village, holding a staff made of twisted wood, its tip glowing with an otherworldly light. Around her, the villagers stood in a circle, their faces filled with fear and hope. She knew in that moment that the village's fate rested in her hands. When Nomvula woke, she knew what she had to do. She had to protect her village, even if it meant confronting her sister and the man she loved. The thought of facing Thandi, of possible hurting her, filled Nomvula with dread, but she couldn't ignore the warning of the ancestors. The following day, Nomvula found Thandi and Langa by the river, preparing for the ritual. The air was thick with tension, the wind picking up as if the spirits themselves were warning of what was to come. "Thandi, stop!" Nomvula called out, her voice strong and unwavering. Thandi turned to her sister, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. "Nomvula, please, you don't understand. We are doing this to serve the village." "No, Thandi," Nomvula said, stepping closer, her voice calm but firm. "He's using you. Langa is not here to save us. He's here to take something from us, something precious." Langa's eyes narrowed as he stood protectively in front of Thandi. "Nomvula, you've always been the practical one, but your fear is blinding you. This ritual is necessary for the survival of your people." "No!" Nomvula shouted, her voice shaking with emotion. "I had a dream, Thandi, a vision from the ancestors. They showed me the truth. This ritual will not save our village, it will destroy it." Thandi hesitated, torn between her love for Langa and her trust in her sister. Memories of their childhood flashed through her mind, of Nomvula always protecting her, always guiding her with wisdom and love. "Believe in us, Thandi," Nomvula pleaded, her eyes full with tears. "We've always protected each other. Trust me now, as I've always trusted you." For a moment there was silence, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. Thandi's heart pounded in her chest, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She looked at Langa, searching his eyes for the warmth and love she had seen before. But now, all she saw was a cold, calculating gaze, a stranger's eyes in the face she thought she loved. "I'm sorry, Langa," she whispered, her voice trembling, "but I can't do this." Langa's face twisted with rage, and in that moment, the charming facade he had worn for so long crumbled. "You foolish girl," he spat. "You don't understand the power you're giving up." Before he could do anything, Nomvula quickly grabbed a handful of sacred dimity she had prepared earlier and threw them into the air, chanting an ancient prayer she had learned from the elders. The wind howled, and a blinding light engulfed the area, forcing Langa to shield his eyes. When the light faded, Langa was gone. The sisters stood by the river, the tension in the air dissipating as the village returned to its peaceful state. In the days that followed, emakosini began to heal. The cattle regained their strength, their coats shining under the African sun. The crops, once withered, began to grow again, and the Umgeni River returned to its clear, life-giving flow. The villagers, unaware of the true events that had taken place, credited the change to the Amadlozi finally being appeased. Thandi was heartbroken, her spirit crushed by the loss of the man she thought she loved. She withdrew into herself, her laughter and joy gone, replaced by deep sorrow that seemed to weigh on her like a heavy cloak. Nomvula watched her sister's pain with a heavy heart, knowing that the wound she had inflicted was necessary, but no less painful. One evening, as the sun set over the hills, Nomvula found Thandi sitting by the river, staring into the water with empty eyes. "Thandi," Nomvula said softly, sitting down beside her, "I'm so sorry. I know how much you cared for him." Thandi didn't respond at first, her gaze fixed on the rippling water. When she finally spoke, her voice was a mere whisper. "I loved him, Nomvula. I thought he was everything I had ever dreamed of. But now I see that it was all a lie." Nomvula took her sister's hand, squeezing it gently. "He deceived us all, Thandi, but you did the right thing. You saved our village. You saved us." Thandi nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know, but it still hurts." Nomvula pulled Thandi into her arms, holding her closer as she cried, "I'm here, Thandi. I'll always be here." As the days passed, Thandi began to heal. She and Nomvula grew closer than ever, their bond strengthened by the ordeal they had faced together. They often sat by the river, sharing stories of the past, dreaming of the future and honoring the spirits that watched over them. And though Langa was gone, the sisters knew that the village's connection to the Amadlozi remained strong. They vowed to honor that connection, to keep the old traditions alive, and to protect their home from any who seek to harm it. The story of Nomvula and Thandi became one of Emakhosini's most treasured tales, a reminder of the power of love, the importance of trust, and the need to balance sense with sensibility. It was a story passed down through generations, a piece of folklore that would live on for centuries, ensuring that the village and its secrets would never be forgotten. And so, Emakhosini thrived, its people living in harmony with the land and the spirits that watched over them, always mindful of the lessons learned from the tale of Sense and Sensibility in the village.